Welcome to MCN, a series of videos where MCN staff like me talk to you about the bikes that we've been running this year in our long-term test fleet. And today I'm here to talk about the Ducati Streetfighter V2 S. ...2025 model, as will the other bikes that you see in this series. And as a little bit of a break for the norm, although I've done it a couple of times, I'm running two long-termers this year. So rather than run one long-termer from kind of spring to autumn like we normally do, decided to split it into 2 3-month chunks so we can get our head around this new engine that Ducati have produced, the 890cc spring valve V-twin, which is in this bike, the Multistrada, which I'm also running, which you can see on a separate video, and the Panigale V2 S, which I've ridden a lot this year at launches and in group tests. And it's also going to power the new Monster. So it's really interesting to see how this engine performs in different bikes. So we're in end of October now. I ran this bike between May and August, so 3 months. And in that time, I've written all this down. It's brilliant. I've done 6,060 miles. So although only 3 months, I squeezed in a lot of miles. If you're wondering what the noise is, we're right next to the Woodcote grandstand at Silverstone. So yes, 6,060 miles. This bike costs £16,395 because it's the S. The base model is 14,295, and basically the S gives you a few nice little trinkets, including the big one, which is fully adjustable Olin suspension. So it's not electronic, it's still mechanically adjustable, but that's where the price difference comes in. And in terms of what I've done with it, well, my idea was the first half of the year was to kind of have a fun bike, and the second half of the year to have more of a touring bike. So the Multistrada ticked that box, and the Streetfighter ticks this box. I've been using it just to kind of muck around on the road, bit of commuting, bit of motorway work from where I live in the Midlands down south. But the main thing I did on it was a 2,181 mile, 1 week road trip to the south of France. And we did that on rural roads, so we didn't touch any motorways, which really suits this bike down to a T, and also saved me a couple of £100 on tolls, which was really good. This is my 4th Streetfighter. I had the original in 2009, the 1098. A few years later, I had the 848 Streetfighter. Then in 2020, the V4 Streetfighter. So this is number 4. One of the things I wanted to know is this really a Streetfighter? Because it's the least powerful Streetfighter ever. So this has got 118 bhp. And I sort of concluded by the end that it is a real Streetfighter. I really, really enjoyed my time with it. And in time-honoured fashion, I'm going to tell you the 10 best things I like about this bike, and also 10 things I'm not so keen on. So let's crack on. This is in no particular order. But the first one, and a lot of these are repeated in the Multistrada review for obvious reasons, because it's got the same engine. But the durability, this never missed a beat, but so it shouldn't. In 3 months, no bike should ever miss a beat, but it's worth saying anyway. And 6,060 miles in such a short amount of time does put its toll on machines, but it always started on the button, never missed a beat. And to be honest, I've mentioned this in the other video as well, I've never had any problem with any of my Ducati long-term bikes or even MCN test bikes. So you shouldn't have any worries about reliability. The other thing is, again, I mentioned this in a Multistrada video, it feels very special. It feels like a Ducati. This deep red paintwork is absolutely beautiful. I really enjoyed polishing this bike as much as anything else. It's very neatly put together. I really like these exhaust cans, these wheelbarrow exhaust cans, which kind of reminiscent of the V-twin Panigale WSB bikes, and also the final edition Panigale 1299. So I really like that. And the attention to detail is absolutely superb. And then when you've got this kind of Olin setting the whole job off, it's just a beautiful thing. Let's talk about the engine, the positives of the engine. So this makes 118 bhp, which I said before, but that's 33 horsepower down on the old 955cc Streetfighter V2, and even my old 132 bhp 848 Streetfighter made more power. But it's still a quick bike. It loves to rev. It's in its element, B roads. It's amazing fun on B roads. It's got more than enough power. If you turn all the electronics off, it's really good fun. You can muck about on it. There's a really nice kind of pop and bang off the throttle. So in terms of what the engine can do, you know, smooth throttle pickup, lovely mid-range, nice and revvy. So it's a really good engine in that respect, even if it hasn't got the big power figures. It's not perfect, but I'll come on to that a little bit later. It's very light. So we put this on the scales full of fuel. It's 186.2 kilos, which is really light. And, you know, light bikes are always brilliant bikes. Light bikes handle well because they haven't got loads of weight to lug around. They stop well. They're not tiring to ride. They're just really light on their feet. And it, you know, really makes this thing really nice and playful. So the lightweight's a nice tick, as is the handling, which is the next thing on my list. When you ride this bike, it's nice and plush, it's nice and balanced, it's easy to ride, ride quality is nice, but it does a thing which Panigales do, Ducati Superbikes do. It's got this incredible stability in corners. And the more you dive into corners, the faster you dive into corners, especially on the brakes, the more the Streetfighter loves it. The amount of feel and the sensation of grip you've got railing into corners is just superb. You just can't get enough of it. It's a very capable cornering tool. And that's even on standard suspension settings. So I've taken this around Cadwell, did a track evening at Cadwell, didn't touch the suspension. All I did was let a bit of air out the standard Pirelli Diablo Rosso 4 tyres, and it was absolutely amazing. If I was there all day and I wanted to chip away at lap times, I might fiddle with the suspension, but to be honest, as it is in standard trim, it's great around the track and it's superb on the road as well. The electronics are really nice as well. They saved me a couple of times at Cadwell when I got a little bit giddy, mainly up through Coppice, which is turn 1, where the bike bottomed out and then the rear tyre slid, and the electronics kind of saved me before I had time to react, which is really good. And then, you know, the dash is nicely laid out, although I'll talk about the dash later on. The quick shifter is really nice and crisp, although I'll talk about the gearbox later on. So far, so good. Next on my list are the brakes. So we've got Brembo M50 calipers, which the same on the Multistrada actually. And the power and the feel is exceptional. So, you know, unlike even now Japanese sports bikes they've got decent hardware, but they really suffer from a lack of feel and overall power, whereas this braking system feels absolutely superb. Feels like a racing setup, and it's got ABS, so it's very safe as well. And the back brake is really good. I've talked about the fun factor of this. If you turn the electronics off, we've taken this down runways a few times, and it will pull third gear wheelies till the cows come home really easily. Do skids, endos, whatever you want. So, you know, it is a Streetfighter in that respect. And we've actually group tested this bike against the Street Triple 765 RS Triumph and the Yamaha MT-09 SP. And, you know, it is as fun as those bikes. It is more like those bikes now than a mini super naked like the old one was. So you kind of got to judge this bike more as a middleweight sports bike now. And it is just like those bikes. It's a little bit more serious. It's a little bit more, you know, it's the James May of the group. It's not the Clarkson or the Hammond, but it's extremely capable. Let's talk about the tyres. So these Pirellis I just mentioned, amazing for original equipment tyres. The first set I had on lasted well over 3,000 miles before I wanted to change it for the France trip that I did. Great around Cadwell, really good in the wet. It's just for OE all-round sports tyres are absolutely superb. So, you know, there wasn't anything on this bike really I wanted to change, even the tyres. So, you know, you buy this bike and it's just good to go out the showroom. But what I did do when I did my French trip, because it was another few thousand miles. I didn't think the Pirellis would last, so I put Bridgestone's new T33s on, which are sports touring tyres, which are not on this at the moment. And they were phenomenal as well. I did 3,000 miles on them in total before I gave this bike back to Ducati, and there wasn't a mark on them after 3,000 miles. They were really grippy. They didn't have that last little bit of lean that you want from a sports tyre when we were zooming up and down the Route Napoleon, but everywhere else they're superb. And then you never had to worry if it rained or if it was cold. They're just always good to go. So standard tyres are brilliant, but there's loads of great alternatives out there. The wind protection, obviously it's a naked and hasn't got much, but somehow at motorway speeds, the wind isn't trying to pull your head off your shoulders. It's actually quieter through the wind than my Multistrada because it hasn't got loads of buffeting big bits of plastic everywhere. So to be honest, I had a tank bag on this when I went touring, and the wind protection and motorway kind of riding was absolutely fine. The lights are really good, as are the Multistradas, although they haven't got a cornering function. So in a straight line, they just turn nighttime into day. But as soon as you go through corners, there are some black spots. And then finally on the good list is the fact, for me, the thing I love most about sports nakeds, super nakeds like this is they're comfortable. You've got all the performance, but they're roomy. I won't say they're comfortable because I'll come to that later on. I'm 6 foot, loads and loads of leg room, nice bar position, and just going through country roads, on a Sunday morning or whatever, it's the perfect blend of comfort and performance. So I've loved this bike, but it's our duty to highlight a few negatives. So again, in no particular order, let's start with the engine. So although on paper it does everything it's supposed to, looks good on a dyno, is fast, you can't really complain, but it does lack a little bit of soul. For a bike like this, you should be giggling the whole time, a bit like you are on an MT-09 or an MT-10 or a Super Duke that I've had in the past. Those kind of bikes are just giggle fests. But this engine, again, is very serious. It's very kind of utilitarian. And at Cadwell, maybe lacking a little bit of power if you want to kind of keep up with everybody in the fast group. It could really do with another 10 to 20 bhp. I know these bikes are all about a nice balance of power and handling, but it just needs that little bit more just to put a big smile on your face. So the next is on the list is because of the engine, it feels a little bit lost on any roads bigger than a B road. So real fast A roads, tracks, it feels a little bit breathless. So the perfect hunting ground for this bike is a nice tight B road on a Sunday morning, and it's probably one of the best bits of fun you can have. Next thing on the list is this seat. It's a hard seat, and after a couple of hours it really starts to make your bum hurt. It's a different design seat to my Multistrada, but it ended up doing exactly the same thing that my Multistrada did to me. After 3 or 4 hours it gets really painful, and then after that it actually starts grazing your behind and taking the skin off your behind. I don't know why that is. There's no rhyme or reason when you look at bike seats. Like I say, if you just went on this for a couple of hours, you wouldn't have any problem at all, but long distance is really, really painful. And also, it's a little bit wristy on the motorway. You're quite over the front, which is what you want when you want to attack corners and feel the grip through the front tyre. And it's still relatively comfortable compared to a race rep, but you are quite on your wrists, and for long journeys it gets quite painful. But what I did is I've added cruise control on this. So it's got cruise control buttons and heated grip buttons, but neither are connected as standard. So I opted for the cruise control. And that cost £244.73, and the heated grips are 301. So yeah, it's a shame they're not standard on a bike costing this much. Next is, small tank range. So it's only got small tank. On average, I was getting between 115 and 140 miles to the tank, depending on how I was riding. 15-litre tank, and I averaged 54 mpg. And then talking about value, the next thing on the list is and I mentioned this before, the Multistrada, I do feel a little bit shortchanged when I look at the dash and I look at the switchgear, because the V4 version of this has got a fancier dash, has got more functions, has got better switchgear, and I know there needs to be a differentiation between the models, and it's kind of your journey up through the Ducati range. But it's a shame that you've got a really beautiful bike that costs a lot of money, and you know that some of the equipment could be better if you had the better bike. Again, in the last video, it's like I drew the analogy, the Fords, when you've got an L model and someone else has got a GL or a Gear, it's kind of that thing. So although there's nothing wrong with the dash or any of the functions or anything like that, it's all really, really nice. It's just not as luxurious as perhaps it could be. The next thing on the list is the gears. Quick shifter is really nice up and down, but the gear action is a little bit stiff on the way up. And in France, where we were taking back roads, there's a lot of gear changes, and by the end of the days I had quite a sore toe, and on some days kind of took the skin off my toe as well. So that was a similar problem I had in the Multistrada, but I wasn't riding the Multistrada on so many small roads, it wasn't such a problem. But yeah, the gear change is a little bit stiff. And also in standard trim, there's quite a lot of engine braking, and so when you come off the throttle, you know, it's stopping you, it's not letting you flow as well as you could do through corners. But it's adjustable, so I took some engine braking out, so there's more freewheeling, and it made the bike much less tiring and much easier to ride for me, although some people like a lot of engine braking. Yeah, the other thing on my list, I've just gone through it, it's a shame that cruise control and heated grips aren't standard. Cruise control is great, not only, it's a bit of a misnomer, cruise control, because it sounds kind of really luxurious and like it should be on a touring bike. But cruise control is more of like a throttle holder. It's when you just want to, you know, on a long journey, you don't want to just be on a constant throttle. I mean, we've done it for years with no cruise control, it's not a problem. But, you know, when you've got a naked bike where you've got a lot of wind against you and you're kind of hanging on anyway, having to keep the throttle at constant is just another little extra tiring thing, which isn't the end of the world, but cruise control makes life easier, and it also helps you, it stops you speeding as well. If you're going through a 50 limit or whatever, you just whack the cruise on. And talking of speeds, the Speedo on this and the Multistrada run about 5 mile an hour high for some reason. And in heated grips, I never worried about that because I had it in the spring and it wasn't cold enough. But if this bike were mine, I would definitely have heated grips. 2 more things. I think it's quite pricey. What did we say it was? 16.3. It's definitely at the more premium end of the price scale compared to its rivals. But yeah, it is worth it. You can see what you're getting for your money. You know, it's more than just the Ducati badge. You know, it's everything else. It's all the equipment. It's the O-Lins. But it's a lot of money for a B road bike, but still worth it. And then finally, and it's the same comment I had with the Multistrada, it has left me feeling a little bit cold. You know, if you're in full attack mode and going through corners really fast and, you know, going around a track, it is really good fun. But when you're not, it's just lacking that little bit of soul. And I guess it's not quite as playful as a Street Fighter should be. It kind of reminds me a little bit more of a Monster than a Street Fighter, if I'm honest. And that's all down to the engine, which, like I say, is just that little bit too serious and kind of lacks that kind of booming, kind of lazy V-twin grunt that it used to have. But, you know, you can't really fault its performance, and Ducati had to go down this route for economy and also, you know, to make the bikes reasonably cheap to make and emissions. So we can't have the old engines back, unfortunately, the ones that set car alarms off. But overall, I really enjoyed my time with the Street Fighter. I love super nakeds as everyday road bikes, and I definitely enjoyed riding this. I enjoyed opening my garage door to it every morning, and I was sad when it went back to Ducati. So that was my 3 months, 6,060 miles on my Ducati Streetfighter V2 S. Stay tuned for all my colleagues' videos and all their bikes. A real interesting mix of wild and wonderful bikes. Have a look out for my Multistrada video as well. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again very soon.